Hello and welcome. I'm your host, William Lou. This is the Reaction Podcast presented by Betway for all of your sports betting needs. Please hit the QR code here and go with Betway. Raptors played another fun game tonight, another perfect tank game if you want to, describe it as such. The Raptors lose by a score of 131 to 125. And we will break it down here with special guest Samson Folk, and I'll just bring him in here as Raptors. Look, the start of this game was nasty. Darko having to call the first three timeouts all in the first quarter. Raptors, after that third timeout, it was 37 to 14. It was 7-0 by the Lakers. Darko calls a timeout. Then it was 25-8. Darko calls another timeout. 37 to 14. Darko calls timeout. But at least after halftime, they came back and made it a game. Samson, bro, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm happy anytime they kind of wiggle their way back into a game and there's like stuff to watch. I was not to be too much of a basketball nerd, but there was a lot of really interesting play designs that the Raptors ran. That twirl action to get Gradey the look where he got the layup at the end of the game was like one of my favorite sets the Raptors have run in the past few years. And we got it because everybody on the team just decided to care a little more. Like the timeouts finally worked. How long does it take you? How many times do you have to be told to correct behavior before it kicks in? Is it 3? Is it 2?
I mean, I feel like as a young kid, I don't know, when I was like these guys' age, like 21, like in that kind of range, like I needed that. Yeah, that's exactly what I needed. I needed a kick in the ass, so to speak. And yeah, like whatever. The Raptors didn't come out. They came out looking just absolutely terrible. The Lakers walking to the basket, any screen, the Raptors were breaking down, and LeBron was, getting to the cup. But you know what? Let's start with the more positive side because I actually am feeling in a pretty good mood. I thought it was actually really fun. Second half, the Raptors were down, I think like 20, 25-ish coming out of half. Obviously, the Lakers are like, all right, let's just get this over with, please. Like, you know what I mean? Let's move to our next city on this this East Coast road trip for them. And yeah, I thought it was RJ. I thought it was Jakob, and it was Gradey. And to a lesser extent, like I thought Davion played some good defense, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it was those three guys who, very similar to the Charlotte game, were just absolutely carrying the offense. Gradey in particular. I mean, I thought first half Gradey was, I wouldn't say he was chucking, but it was just like none of it was really like hidden really for him. And then all of a sudden it goes from chucking to like, wow, that's spectacular shot making, which is what we've seen from him. Gradey ends up setting a new career high for the third time in 4 games. Goes from 25 against Minnesota to 30 against Charlotte, now 31 against the Lakers. I wish it was 34 because he had the open corner 3 as well, which would have made it a 1-possession game at the end, which is kind of incredible given how lopsided this match was. But yeah, your space, Gradey Dick, your son, made you proud once again.
Just in the interest of continuing our, shared fandom of Lord of the Rings, I tweeted it out and you probably didn't see it, but the meme where Sam, he says, if I take one more step, it'll be the farthest I've ever been away from home. And then how there's 9 hours of him saying it every time he takes a step. That is Gradey setting his career high 3 times in a week, man.
Yep.
It's incredible the way, and this is like, there's a video of us, the Raptors Republic party when Gradey got drafted. We're all very excited, and we did a podcast afterwards. And
so no booze like for Scotty's draft, or
I wasn't there, so I can't. Like I was still in Mexico. That was
neither was I.
That
Neither
was
was I.
crazy. Yeah. The Gradey Dick pick was much more popular than the Scotty one, but they both seem to be panning out quite well. But regardless, like a lot of the really interesting stuff that he was doing at Kansas, we're seeing now, and to the effect of like he's averaging over 20 points per game now, and his true shooting is close to 60%, and his shot diet is really difficult. Like RJ Barrett's might be a little bit tougher now, but he's taking harder shots than Scotty was. He's taking harder shots than everybody else on the roster. And when this roster looks gun shy and this roster looks a little bit hesitant, Gradey's like, hey brother, don't you worry. Like I'll get those shots up. I'm out here for usage. It's been so fun, man.
Yeah.
Even in losses.
I think it's fun because he's just like, there's no dip in confidence. And then I think there is something with these off-ball guys where it requires a lot of creativity, right? Like even on that last play and the play you're referencing, the Raptors were, I think, down 6, maybe they're down 6.
Yeah.
But last minute they come out of the timeout, and I thought the Lakers did a really good job of denying the initial action to get to Gradey. And then Grady's like, all right, I'm just going to flip around then. I'm going to read that Jakob's keeping the ball here. I'm going to run in a whole circle, and then I'm going to catch it, and I'm going to go strong to the cup. And whatever, AD lets him go because I don't think he wanted to give up an and one. He just gave up the 2 rather than the There you go. There you go. Look at that. Look at this. Wow. Great play design there, Coach Folk. But yeah, that actually was a really, really good sequence. And I think there's like an inventiveness with Gradey right now. It's like there's a daring with Gradey to be like, what can I get away with? What can I actually shoot? And then he's just going. And I think like this is the first time where this season he's actually gone off for a high volume of threes, right? Well, actually, that's not true. Did he make 6 the other day? It's hard to say. But regardless,
5,
like
yeah,
we've seen him score in a variety of ways. I thought the fact that he got 30 against Charlotte while only making 2 threes was such a huge improvement over sort of like what we've seen from rookie year. And then this one, I mean, damn, I'm really enjoying like first or second option Gradey Dick. I didn't think we'd be here already, but damn, that's nice.
It's because he's a 3-level scorer. I think he's now 8 of 11 on his mid-range jumpers this season, and so that's pretty high volume. Like he's taking like 1.5 per game. Mid-range pull-ups are not. You don't want it to be too high. You don't want a guy living on those. Obviously, we've passed that era of the NBA. However, he's very adaptable. Like he took just not even an off-ball possession, but he took Austin Reeves, who admittedly is not the best defender in the world, but he took him straight up pick and roll, kept him on his hip, finished with the outside hand, easy bucket, layup in the pick and roll, creation reps. He's running like crazy, a whirling dervish off ball. We talked about the twirl action to get the 3. He's 1 pass away for the 3 he hit. Or he didn't hit a 3 on the twirl action. He got to the rim. But the 3 he hit when he was 1 pass away from RJ, where Reeves is in his face and he just goes over top of him. Like that cunning to get any shot off at any point in time. He'll start a game 1 for 6. He doesn't care, man. He's going to put the shots up. And that is a really commendable aspect of how he approaches basketball. And it was one that was preached about him when he got drafted, and one that was robbed of him a little bit when he started out so poorly. But I think we're back to like full on Dick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, sure. Phrasing, but
okay,
you know, it's
yeah,
fine.
okay,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I agree what you're saying because like with Gradey too, it's like I think my hopes for him coming into the season, I don't know about you, but my hopes for him was like, can you establish yourself as like a full-time starter? Can you showcase a little bit more on the defensive end? And then can you find some consistency with how you score? I think I kind of looked at like, I want you to basically be better than like Gary Trent Jr., for example, has been in the last couple of years. And like, I don't think we've ever seen Gary play like this. And that's not to say Gary hasn't had 30 balls. Gary had that stretch where he had like 5 or 6 straight games with 30 balls. I don't know what happened to that since. That was 3 years ago. But like, it's not like Gary hasn't had good games. But I think the difference between him and the last guy, I guess, in this role was just, it felt like Gary, like if the Raptors ran one action for him and it was denied, like I don't think there was the inventiveness to like keep going in that sort of sequence and keep hunting in those shots. And I would say Gary was a very audacious shooter as well, but not quite like this. I feel like the last couple of games here for Gradey, it's like not only are they running plays for him, but like against pretty good defenses, and it's actually working, and he's showing this fearlessness. And what's encouraging to me too is obviously like how much chemistry you can have with a guy like RJ as well. And I thought RJ tonight ends up with a career high 10 assists. Maybe he got the 11th. He got 12 assists tonight. Okay, so that's a career high, but he set the career high with the 10th assist, and it was coming off the pick and roll, and he just threw a cross-court pass to Gradey to knock down the 3. And I thought that those two had some pretty good chemistry too. I mean, the last couple of games here, we've seen him and RJ just completely cook, and yeah, I thought those two showed good chemistry too. What did you see from RJ?
Yeah, RJ. I had a blast watching RJ last year. He was one of the great aspects of what was like really not. You and I talked about every game at the end of that year. It was it was not great. They lost
First
a lot
start,
of games.
Garrett Temple, great post game quotes.
Exactly. RJ's resiliency to get to the rim, particularly the play where he went to the corner to Gradey for the 3, and this wasn't out of the pick and roll, but where it flattened out into an isolation, and he went and bully drove Austin Reeves deep into the paint. It was like guys dug in on him And a lot of players would have picked up the dribble or passed out at that point, but he kept the ball and he took it deeper. And he's been doing such a great job of keeping his dribble alive and just keep turning it downhill, keep turning it downhill, keep turning it downhill. And his resiliency, not only as a finisher, a scorer, but as a playmaker, evidenced by these 12 assists. And this isn't necessarily like an assist farm 12 assists. This guy's getting 2 feet in the paint every single possession. This guy is doing such a great job of churning and creating offense. And that's nice to see, man. Like, it's not easy to go in there against like Anthony Davis and 2 big wings in Rui and LeBron. And like, admittedly, Reeves and D'Lo aren't going to give you that much, but you have to deal with a lot of size in there, and finding your counters is great. So just seeing the vast array of what RJ is able to do, that's good. That's fun.
Yeah, my takeaway, well, the last couple games with RJ is number one, he's obviously knocked down a 3 at a high clip. That's something that maybe will come down. Although, he's been shooting it really well. Tonight he went 3 of 5. I think, 5 to 6 threes per game for RJ, I'm pretty comfortable with right now. But I think the other thing too is just like, I guess the Raptors typically don't run that much pick and roll. Like, they want to put it into the post to Jakob. They want to sort of like cut off of each other. Darko's really implemented that style of play. When Scotty's there, you see a lot of that with Scotty as well. But obviously without Scotty, it's like, okay, and especially I guess without Quickly too, it's like, okay, RJ is essentially the point guard. Like, yeah, Davion's like defending the other point guard, but he's getting out the way most times on offense. And you're seeing a lot of like RJ running the point and also playing a lot of pick and roll. And I don't know, I want to see a larger sample of this, but I'm actually pretty intrigued. What I like from RJ playing the pick and roll is he's just getting 2 feet in the paint all the time. And he does that already anyway. I think the difference is last year when he was with the Raptors after the trade, he was sort of playing more off ball and then sort of curly and getting downhill. So a lot of the initial advantage isn't generated by him necessarily. But right now, the ball's in his hands. It's Jakob Poeltl coming to get a screen for him, and he is just getting to great spots. And I think, I guess one of the good things to today's game was also Masai joined the broadcast randomly in the second quarter when they were getting destroyed like 40-20. And he's like, yeah, the vision is like, Scotty being that sort of like do-it-all player, can play all 5 positions, quickly can shoot and be fast and score. And then like RJ can get to any spot on the floor. And I was like, I guess RJ really can get to the paint like in a way that is a genuine talent. And I don't think that like I don't think this is an anomaly. Like, I really love the fact that he's been able to play pick and roll here.
Yeah, I think like, and they're more clever about how they build out RJ's pick and rolls. And RJ has made steps as a pick and roll creator. Like, he changes pace more often. He doesn't pick up the ball as early. Keeping live dribble in the pick and roll allows you so many more avenues to be able to play, make, and score, of course. But also the Raptors are very intentional about who they place where on the floor. And this isn't just for RJ, but for everybody, to balance the floor, to provide the correct spacing. And they're also very quick at triggering a second action to help out of it. And a lot of those actions loop back around into a second RJ pick and roll in the same possession. And that's the resiliency, is like taking it once, shifting the floor, getting it back, taking it twice, then you find it. Not everybody has the, I guess, stick-to-itiveness to be that kind of offensive player. Not everybody has the stamina. Not everybody has that. And RJ not only is better decision-making, we're seeing, I think, skill development somewhat, but the team is helping him out. It's really nice.
It is really nice. And I think it's gone to the point where I almost feel a little bit greedy, but like, I just want to see another step from RJ as well, especially on the defensive end. Because I thought the Charlotte game was like, all right, man, like, how many times are you going to leave Cody Martin and Trey Mann? Like, they're not even making moves and they're getting open. I think that's the only thing too, because like, I think when RJ came to the trade, I think from the New York perspective, it was like, he's more in the trade for salary because the Raptors really were targeting IQ. And that's not to say the Raptors didn't see any value in RJ, but I think that they were like, what we're getting right now is a player that is not necessarily surplus value compared to his contract. I think that since he's joined the Raptors, I think he's played above that value that he's getting paid. But also, more importantly, I think that like he's starting to play more of a prominent role, and you're starting to hear him talked about in sort of like these big 3 settings. Well, not big 3. That'd be way too hyperbolic for what the Raptors are right now at 1 and 5. But like core 3, let's say BBQ conversations. The thing is, okay, if that's on the core, then I do want RJ to play better defensively as well. And I don't know. I thought he was actually decent tonight defensively. He had one play where he was switched on to AD, did a good job, kind of pulled the chair on him a little bit, got AD to sort of like, I guess, mistime his hook shot, and then he boxed him out, and the Raptors got the rebound. What do you think it'll take for RJ to be like average defensively, if not slightly above average defensively?
So this is kind of these types of guys. Usually it takes a pretty good defensive unit around them to kind of help them. And the reason why RJ was better on a guy like Anthony Davis is because RJ, you can see it in how he scores the ball. He's stronger than basically everyone his height.
Mm-hmm.
And even like if a guy has 2 inches, that range, RJ is going to be able to outmuscle those guys. So RJ can be kind of one of those, like I'm sure you remember when James Harden, it became like all the, let's say, blog boys were like, Harden's actually not so bad at defense now because he guards the post. If you remember that happening.
Remember that. Yeah.
So that can very easily happen for RJ Barrett. However, that's not actually good at defense, but he can. So I'll say he can slump into that later in his career. For now, I think it is about like being a guy who works more on the scouting report, being a guy who you're never going to have that foot speed. So you have to know what guys' tendencies are so you can cheat, open the hip to the side they love to go to. Be a guy who, when you're one pass away, you're really aggressive on digs and you know who struggles with digs. And when you're guarding the guy in the strong side corner, is this guy going to really hurt me? Is this a guy who back cuts or is this a guy who shakes in the pick and roll? Like all that homework can help you cover 30% of defense is doing that homework.
Sure.
And then 70% is putting your body on the line. And with how much he has to carry offensively right now, maybe there's not that much body to give. But in the future, when it's Scotty, IQ, RJ, Gradey, Jakob, I mean, he should have more to give on that end. And it will just be about like, are you getting to spots early? Are you recognizing what defenses are doing? You have to let your brain go farther ahead because your feet aren't as quick as, some of these other quicker guards, but you're stronger than them. So beat them to spots if you can.
That's a good point. I mean, does he not have a quick first step? I feel like he how does he get by people on offense like pretty consistently?
Yeah.
But then he doesn't have a quick first step defensively. How would that work?
He has a great last step on offense. His ability to stretch for that last step, his strength to keep guys on his hip, to stabilize on one leg, turn and finish. Like he has a lot of different angles he comfortably finishes at the rim. His last step after the bump that he initiates on his on-ball defender is really what separates him on drives. His last step. I don't think his first step is that quick. Neither was DeMar's, for example. Like DeMar had a good running one-legged jump, but his athleticism didn't really manifest in that many other ways. And RJ, his last step is a really unique aspect of how he finishes. It's similar to Luka as well.
Sure. Yeah, I guess you're right actually, especially with these bulkier guys too. I agree with your point though. Like if your thing is that you're stronger, then you just need to get to the spot first. And then at that point, it's the onus is on the offensive player to make another move or to adjust sort of what they're doing versus like, if he's just not as focused to get to those spots. But I mean, like, look, these are like, at this point, it's almost a nice to have because offensively, RJ is just doing so much for the team that, it is just nice to have that extra part. And I think that that's something that, I mean, I think the Raptors have spoken about it too. I think, Darko, Masai, these guys have talked about sort of, with RJ is just getting him to be as enthusiastic playing defense as he is about scoring. Thing is, man, about scoring, like I mean, I just continue to be impressed. I think you probably get the same question because people have this lingering feeling with RJ, but like, I don't get the sense watching him play that this is some sort of unsustainable hot streak that he's suddenly been on for the last, like, I guess 4 months of basketball as a Raptor. I think that there is something that the Raptors are doing to sort of make him more efficient overall. But then again, I don't know. Today, he kind of played like the way the Knicks kind of want him to play too, like generate most of the offense yourself. And he also did a great job. Like RJ finished tonight, career high 12 assists, 33 points, 14 of 22 from the field. Somehow only got to the foul line 2 times. Very strange on that front because the free throw disparity was 41-13. Goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But still, RJ's looking great, man. I'm so thrilled to have RJ on the team.
That was also when I was there the other night when they lost, to Denver, and RJ had just come back in, and I was like, hey, you drove like 15 or 16 times to the rim, and he cut me off. He was like, and no free throws, man. It's like, yeah, he's not getting to the line. I wonder if, something will flip for him there. But I mean, I guess we'll see. He like when he joined the Raptors, to your, posing the question of like, is this a flash in the pan? I mean, when I was looking at, like the film and the stats, it was clear to me that he was creating higher value assists. He was creating more layups. He was passing. He had a higher pass percentage out of drives. He was also the best driver on the Raptors when he was here. He was the highest volume driver on the Raptors. He was here. He was the best isolation scorer on the Raptors when he was here. And he shot 39% from three, but he shot 53% in the half court last year. He's been gangbusters so far this year. He's averaging 27 points per game, 28 through 3 games.
Sure. Yeah.
He's working
let's
hard,
do averages
man.
for 3 games. Sure.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Gradey averaging 30 in the last couple games, but
yes, man.
No, I mean, first off, I gotta correct, because I actually thought about what I said in the last episode. And I think I said like RJ moved his rim frequency from like 50 to 70%. I think I got that backwards. I think it was 35% with the Knicks to like 50%. So like half his shots are at the rim. So yeah, the Raptors have found a lot of great ways. But again, like I think last year the Raptors got him curling to the basket a lot, and the sort of the off-ball movement, going from an environment with the Knicks where there was very little of that to Toronto where there was a lot more of that. I felt like, okay, that was sort of like a stylistic use and change in that. But again, like the last couple games, like it's not like RJ's been cutting his way to 33 points. RJ's like, I got to create this thing myself. And yeah, I guess nobody's really throwing double teams at him quite yet. And even today, the more that they showed help, the more he was able to set other guys up. That was great to see. But he's been encouraging. Grady's been great. Jakob, I mean, a little quiet moment for Jakob, I suppose. But I thought Jakob, like, he's been doing his very best, And tonight he has to guard AD. AD goes for 38 points. I felt like AD got out in transition way too much. Yeah. And that was like, there was a stretch there for the Lakers where they threw like 3 straight touchdown passes to AD for walking in for layups. So obviously AD is amazing. I mean, he's like been one of the best players in the league starting out this season under JJ Redick. But yeah, I mean, Jakob, 19 points, 12 rebounds, 6 offensive, 6 assists, 3 blocks, 9 of 14 from the field. I wouldn't say a perfect game, but like I feel like he's been balling out recently, and there's never any impetus to gas up Jakob Poeltl, but he's been good. I want to give Jakob his credit, man. He's been playing really well.
What have you made of his defense? Because when I was watching the Charlotte game, I thought that he and Nick Richards, like this is what I said to Trey, I was like, it was as if they shook hands before the game and were like, we're both going to have great nights, the two of us. Because they combined for like 35 points and 28 rebounds, and it seemed like their bodies didn't touch all night,
Yeah. I think his defense, look, tonight the Raptors did want to send a lot of help at AD, and I don't think Jakob helped off of AD. It was kind of similar to that Nuggets game where I'm like, okay, he's never going to come off of Jokic. But on the flip side, the Raptors weren't going to send a lot of help on the touches that Jokic had or AD had. But like, yeah, I don't know. It's there's some moments, I would say. I think the Raptors look steadier overall with him on the floor. A lot of that I think comes down to rebounding more than necessarily he's getting a ton of shots blocked or that he's changing a lot of shots, which is typically what you see from a center. But yeah, I don't know. I think his defense has been fine. The thing is, like, the whole team's defense is just not that strong. Like, I asked Darko before the game today, like, Darko, the emphasis for like all of summer league and for training camp and for preseason and for the season has been, we got to improve our defense. We're going to do X, Y, and Z on defense. Essentially, you're 30th on defense right now. Like, are you seeing any signs? Like, is there something the numbers aren't capturing? And he did say that he does like the increased ball pressure. I think he threw out like the fact that, Scotty's been out, and that obviously hurts their defense. And then I think the last thing was just like, when you're learning a lot of new things, like, it's going to take a little bit of time. So he kind of gave out 3 reasons, but yeah, I mean, overall, I just don't think anyone on this team has been particularly great defense. Even Jamal Shed, I thought he was awesome in preseason, but like right now, I don't even think that like there's not one standout defender for me on the Raptors right now, at least on the season so far in the 6 games, unless you disagree.
No, I agree with that. And the reason I asked is because, again, like, on-off stuff hasn't normalized yet, but the Raptors have been better defensively with Jakob off the floor. And then so that would, like, that would be stupid if we hadn't watched the games. And I think
Sure.
like Yak is kind of mailing it in a little bit on defense, but it seems like the back end of the Raptors, like Scotty wasn't even that impressive before he got
Mhm.
injured defensively. Like it just seems like they put a lot of attention on the MIG up front and, ball pressure, and their deflections went up. And I don't know if that's still the case, but Keeks tweeted out they were the most well-traveled team as far as miles per game, and like their hustle stats are through the roof. So this team is
Mhm.
ostensibly hustling, and yet,
Yeah.
and yet,
Yeah.
like are you hustling in the smartest way? What does your hustle beget? It's
Mm.
like how does this end up? So yeah, I was kind of wondering, since where your metric on the hustle / care of the team was.
I mean, I think that like it's hard to assess a game like this because they came
Mhm.
out so incredibly flat. Like again, like they had to call 3 timeouts in the first quarter. Darko's just like, please. He tried every single player he had available to play to him. He's like, guys, anything from any of you tonight, please. Um, there was no response there. The Lakers got up so big that it's like it's very easy to then cut back into the lead when the other team is like very comfortable and they're like, look, this team doesn't have anything. And then you come back into the third quarter. Uh I think if there's any sort of improvements on defense, which right now technically they've actually taken a step back defensively, despite their hard efforts, it is just like the on-ball pressure from like Jamal Shed and Davion Mitchell. Like I think Davion is a bit of a quiet burn, I would say, but there's been a couple of moments each game where he like takes a charge, or he has strong hands and he forces a jump ball like he did today. Although he did lose the jump ball, but whatever. It was against a much bigger player in Rui. Also, shout out to Davion for trying to like pretend that it was Chris Boucher who tied the ball up. He's just like, me? No, me, not me, no jump ball. He's like, no. It was Chris. And LeBron was like, dude, what are you doing?
Awesome gamesmanship.
That is so funny to me. Because that's some stuff that Kyle Lowry would have tried, for example. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, I don't really see any tangible differences defensively, man.
That's
Like yeah.
What's that meme? The Spice Adams one where he's like a toothpick changes everything. That's
Yeah.
kind of like what the Raptors like. They're a little
Right.
bit sharper on defense. They got the toothpick in the mouth, but it's like, damn, this is actually not going well right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just a little bit of ball pressure changes everything. I wanted to get your thoughts on Jakob Poeltl as well, because he made his NBA debut after suffering a shoulder injury to start his career tonight. He ends up playing 21 minutes off Toronto's bench. He came in with 5 minutes left in the first quarter, got a nice little ovation from, or not an ovation, but just a nice little clap from the crowd. He finishes 1 for 8 from the field, gets 6 rebounds, an assist, a block. End up being a +7 in 22 minutes. I mean, whatever. He obviously didn't make his shots, but I actually thought he played a decent game out there.
So the big thing with Jacoby that I thought I was seeing was that his defense actually looked good.
Yeah.
He was in the gaps when he needed to be. He was aggressive on ball, and he didn't get like pushed around or made into a turnstile.
He's
Where
stronger than he looks. You're right. Like because I look at him, I'm like, this is another wiry rookie, and he's gonna be skinny, and he might go through what Gradey went through. And who knows? I've literally seen 20 minutes of this guy so far in the NBA setting. But he looked kind of strong. He actually held this position many times.
yeah, which we didn't get that from Gradey until preseason this year. You know what I mean? Like
Sure. Yeah.
when he stepped out on Jordan Poole in Montreal or something like that. Jacoby looks much farther along in that regard. I don't know, maybe when we're talking to him after 5 or 6 games in the NBA, we say like, hey, you look stronger, dude. Did you put some weight on? What went on with that? I don't know.
Awesome.
But yeah, the core coverage looked good. He seemed attentive on defense. Obviously he struggled with his shot, but a little bit like he was a lot more withdrawn as far as like being a shot taker than he was at Baylor. He's a crazy shot taker at Baylor. Like,
yeah,
what Gradey did tonight actually does not even measure what type of shots Jacoby was taking. Like, he's named for Jordan and Kobe.
Yeah,
like
he's like, I warned you, man.
Yeah, he embodies that in his play. But even though he took 8 shots, it was across 21 minutes. It was quite a few open ones, and he took what was available to him. You just got to trust that one of the best shot makers in the draft will do that going forward, the same way that Gradey is repaying the trust that people had over the course of his first season, right? the intangible stuff looks better and farther along. So even though he's 1 for 8, 6 boards, board man gets paid, intangible, etc. I think it's a win. You know, +7. If you could be a guy who's like, this guy won his minutes, I love being that guy. That
look at us gassing up a +7, man. How far the 2019 champions have fallen.
Was Kyle, what was he a +7 or +14 in game 1 when he like didn't score at all? But they're like, we lost when he was off the floor, you know.
Game 1 was so funny because I had to speed walk from Scotiabank to King and Spadina, where the Yahoo Sports Canada offices were. I had to do a post-game show. We were trying to go live, and I was like, let's go there as quickly as possible. And it's just me and Vivek walking through from, I guess, Union to St. George area, or St. Andrew area. And I'm just like yelling in the streets, 0 points? He scored 0 points. But yeah, okay. So Jacoby, what I liked was him diving on the floor, scrapping for that rebound, and then immediately hitting it to Mobo for a layup. He got a cut for an and one. That's his 1 basket of the game, his only basket of his career so far. I like that he held this position defensively. I mean, offensively, because a lot of people, obviously, let's be real, a lot of people have not seen college basketball, and he is a one-and-done player too. What type of player do you envision him as right now, maybe in year 1 and then year 2? Because I think the lesson that Grady's teaching us is don't judge these very young one-and-done shooters after 1 year. Like, let's see sort of how the trajectory goes. What do you think he's going to do this year, and what do you think he'll do in year 2?
I think he'll probably struggle a little bit from offense, like on the offensive side this year. And I think even though I thought he was positive defensively in this game, I think he'll probably be a slight negative on both sides of the court, which that's what rookies are.
That's
man.
just rookies.
Even like if you draft a rookie and you're like, this guy is going to help us win, it's a bit optimistic, you know? However, I think like he's kind of like a jitterbug, you know, the way that the Raptors, as you said, you know, they don't like to run that much pick and roll. They love to work through the high post. They love to work through dribble handoffs. And, you know, Jacoby is a guy who can kind of bounce around those actions and reroute and jump into places and kind of knife through space. Maybe not at the same level that we've seen from Gradey from the beginning, but in a similar vein, a movement player who is also very comfortable getting on ball and taking his own shots. Gradey is a good facsimile of what we can expect Jacoby to try and do. It will develop differently. Like, he's smaller than Gradey. He's more athletic than Gradey, and he'll carve out his own path. But I think we're looking at a guy who's starting off as an off-ball player and a guy who's going to try and punch up at, I guess, more twitchy guards for defense. And however it grows from there, I like Jacoby. I think his shot making really decides whether or not this is a big win or not, because that was so big. Like, he didn't shoot well at Baylor. He was inefficient, but everybody watched him score 28 in his first college game ever. Like, damn, this guy can get buckets. And so that's kind of the sell.
Yeah, I think the difference between him and Gradey too is like I already have more confidence in what Jacoby can do off the dribble than Gradey, you know, especially and that's not Gradey like attacking a closeout. I feel that's like a slightly different off the dribble versus like a standstill off the dribble versus like you already have some momentum or like you're attacking a closeout. Yeah, I feel like Jacoby, especially if you watch some of the stuff, like the way he got his buckets in college with Baylor was very different than how Gradey got his buckets for Kansas. And that potential to me is like maybe the biggest selling point with him is like, can he become, let's say in a year 2 setting, a guy who could run some pick and roll for you, almost operate a little bit as a 6-man type for you. Seems like the Raptors for the foreseeable future with the backup point guard position, whether that's going to be Davion or Jamal, are going to be like low usage defense guys. So what you would like to pair with that is like somebody who is a higher usage guy who can sort of run more of the offense for you and create more advantages. I feel like that's sort of where he can do, you know, like he's already his best skill right now probably is actually just drawing fouls. He seems to have a really good knack for like knowing how to draw fouls, and he draws the fouls not like how RJ does, where she's like RJ's in the paint all the time, a couple up fakes, and then all of a sudden like guys are just having to, you know, overreact to you. I feel like Jacoby has a really good knack for even drawing fouls in the mid range. There was a lot of that in college as well. So I think it's interesting. Like I don't know necessarily how it's going to go, but I think, yeah, I mean, especially right now in the season, like Bruce Brown continues to be out. We'll see sort of when he's back. I think Eric Kareen asked Darko before the game, like, hey, is there an update on Kelly? Because like he's just been out for this back injury, and I think Darko said like a couple more weeks. So it seems like Kelly's not going to be in the mix for a while. And then even with IQ, I think like his thing was like, IQ, like basically sometimes he wakes up and he can't, it's like really bad. And then some days he's okay. So I think they're kind of waiting for like for it to just completely subside, but he's got a back thing too. And so it's like, you're getting these opportunities, you're getting these reps. And I want Jacoby to not like lose his sort of like daring nature on offense, because I think that's sort of what's true to him. And I actually don't even think he took that many bad shots tonight. I think he went 1 for 8, but like there were some open threes in there, there were some open mid-range pull-ups. So I just like keep trying with that, and let's just see sort of where it's at. You know what I mean? Like it's not like this second unit is generating offense from anywhere else. Because I thought also too is just where this game kind of stopped for the Raptors in terms of the comeback was just like when they needed 1 or 2 more threes to drop, they would just keep bricking. And I feel like Chris, I'm always rooting for you, Chris, but I feel like the momentum coming into the season is starting to fade. Because he's starting to like, slip back into bad habits defensively, and then also miss some crucial threes. Jamal, I love you, dog, but like I feel like he's missing some wide open threes. The Lakers were like not even fully closing out on him. I think over time the book's gonna come out on a lot of these rookies. And yeah, like who else is gonna create offense for you in the second lineup? Like Jacoby, please by all means, like explore, what you have.
So outside of RJ and Gradey, the Raptors shot 2 of 20 from 3.
Sure, yeah.
Which is not great.
That's crazy.
Obviously. RJ and Gradey teamed up for 8 of 16, which is great. That we love to see that, man.
Yeah, it's great, because otherwise we would lose this game by 30 points. And we would have seen Bronny a lot earlier than we did. Then just the last few seconds. Yeah, I mean, this is the last thing I'm going to ask you before we get to a message from our sponsors, and then also get to some of your questions so you can get those in as well. Last minute of the game is a 6-point game, maybe a 4-point game with the Lakers shooting free throws to make it 6, but like a 2-possession game. And AD was at the line, and you started to hear the Scotiabank Arena crowd start chanting like Bronny, Bronny, Bronny. And I thought like, yo, the game's close enough. Like this ain't like 20 points. Let's chant for Bronny. But yeah, regardless, the Raptors score, Lakers score, and then all of a sudden on the last possession of the game, where it was, I believe, an 8-point game, the Lakers actually do go ahead and sub in Bronny for basically 3 seconds, And yeah, I guess I'm just wondering, like, is this going to be a thing all year where like Bronny is cheered for, but in a way that's so attached to LeBron that it's almost like he's a prop? You know what I mean? Like, it's not Bronny for Bronny's sake. It's kind of just like, we want this moment for LeBron and we want to see the spectacle rather than like, we actually want to see this player.
Yeah, that's, you get into like condescension or like placation, right? Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, why are you playing him for 6 seconds?
I don't know. Like, I think Bronny had serious buzz without, like, if he was just a regular player at USC, I think he would have gotten some looks as a draft prospect, even after his heart problems. But I think he has to become a certain level of player to, rise past that treatment. And he's just not there. And I like that he has NBA skills. We'll see if they develop. We'll see if he ends up like finding his footing. But as far as being treated that way and that kind of being like a, hey, this is a fun thing. Yeah, I don't know if he'll be able to escape that for a long time.
It's just kind of weird because like I can only imagine how strange this is for him as well. Yeah. Right. Because like no other player in this situation would be sort of like not be even given these chances. I'm not even trying to play the nepotism angle, but I just mean like these circumstances wouldn't happen for anyone else. Like I think the closest thing maybe in Toronto was like there was that game where Raptors were beating Milwaukee by 50, and then in the fourth quarter, fans started chanting, "We want Bruno, we want Bruno," and then we put in Bruno Caboclo, who was like 18 years old, literally fresh out of Sao Paulo in Brazil, and he was thrown in the game, and he actually like that was actually one of my favorite moments as a Raptor. 8 points,
so fire,
the most memorable 8 points. The fact that he called for a lob running at half court, he literally pointed for a lob, and I think Lou Williams threw him the assist. for his first ever basket. Then he knocked down the 3 too. Like, but that's like you're up 50, and like, you know what I mean? Or like Human Victory Cigar would be like, I think people used to chant for like White Mamba, like Brian Scalabrine to come in the game. He was kind of like Human Victory Cigar. Like, but very few players just start out their career as just that. And I think obviously a lot of people there's obviously just a gigantic Laker fan base. And then you multiply that by the fact that there's a gigantic LeBron fan base. Like before the game, there were so many Laker jerseys. There's a family sitting not courtside, but like just behind courtside. You know, there's like those 3 rows of courtside, and then there's like a walkway, and then that first row of like unofficial courtside. There was a family there that was just like 3 D'Angelo Russell fans, and one of them had 3 D'Angelo Russell jerseys, like 3 different number 1s that they were just pulling out. And of course,
would he know them maybe because his wife's from Toronto? Is that a possibility?
Perhaps. Well, that would be kind of nice. I you know what? But like there was so much like Laker gear. There was LeBron jerseys from like every era of his career. There's like the Cleveland LeBron jerseys from the first time he was with the Cavs, the Heat LeBron jerseys, Team USA LeBron jerseys. I saw a Utah Jazz All-Star Weekend LeBron jersey, like the sunset colors with LeBron's name on the back. Like there were just that many fans. So obviously they're going to chant and they're going to want these moments because what they're here to see is for that spectacle. But like, I don't feel like Bronny is just kind of like thrown out there to sort of appease the masses rather than like he's earned, or like it just doesn't feel like organic. Like the whole thing feels so inorganic in a way that like I actually want this thing to look cool and be a cool storyline. Like he's so good, LeBron's still good. Now they're sharing the court together. It's basically Ken Griffey all over again, but it's not that.
Yeah,
it's take your kid to work day, and it's like show me your kid. It's like it's not fun. It's just not fun.
And that's like I don't care that Bronny got drafted. Well, like name the last 10 55th overall. Like nobody actually pays attention to it or cares. However, the like, hey, here he is, you know, is like that does not happen for 55th overall picks. That's the tough aspect of it for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, weird game tonight. Raptors were completely out of it, and then they came back in. We are going to take your questions, but first, we want to bring you a message from our beloved sponsor. So by now, you've already heard the news that Coors Light, as part of the Raptors' 30th anniversary, has these very specially branded cans. They look beautiful. Look at these things, man. Look at these.
They're covering each era from the first 30 years of the Raptors, and you can get them now at select LCBO stores, participating bars and restaurants across the GTA, and also at Scotiabank Arena. But one more thing, Will, make sure to check out ERAineveryCan.com, ERAineveryCan.com to check out these limited edition cans. And fans can go on the website and enter for a chance to win exclusive Coors Light Raptors prizes. I heard there's some really cool merch collabs and other things happening as well.
So. No, I'm actually, you know what? You actually did tell me what those collabs are going to be. And I got to say, like, I'm really, really excited. I know Coors Light is a partner that we've worked with in the past as well, but this is just beautiful. Like, honestly, I don't even know if I want to drink these cans, man. You got like the OG, you know, you got like the championship season, and then you got like whatever's in between, I guess the Chris Bosh can. I'll probably drink the Chris Bosh can if it
I mean, one to rock, one to stock, and also for Raptors fans, like make sure you keep an eye out, follow Coors Light on social because they're going to pop up around the city as well.
Oh, word?
I'm hearing they might be at Rogers Center. They might be outside Scotiabank Arena. They might be at Nathan Phillips Square for more prize giveaways. So make sure you check that out. Remember, you must be 19 plus and celebrate responsibly.
I'm going to be there. I can't wait to celebrate. Speaking of that new merch that they're handing out, Samson, I just happen to be wearing some of this merch right now. Wow. I'm going to mute my mic as I take off the rest of my shirt. But yeah, Samson, what do you think of the 30th anniversary?
So I think the 30th anniversary is a great. It's been really fun to see. I'm excited once they start breaking out the courts. I mean, tomorrow night we'll see one with the Vince stuff. But yeah, I think that whoever did the design, the intentionality to go back to it, how they've been rolling everything out, from like the fanalist perspective, I think there's tons of stuff. I think it's been for the kid over here that grew up watching the Raptors and didn't really get access. I was a little bit too young to the purple fever of it all. Getting to kind of run it back is pretty fun for me.
It is really fun, honestly. Like I think for me, I was never that partial to the purple until you actually saw it on the players this year, and I'm just like, that jersey just looks clean. period. Like there's just no other way around it. And I think I honestly think the dinosaur probably is like the cartoon dinosaur is like so good that it's been brought back like once every 2 years. They're like, guess what? Throwback. And it's like, if that's the case, just make it your main thing again. Cause like, why are you throwing it back every 2 years? So maybe that's just for the team in general, but just if you want to bring it back, just bring it back. That's all. Yeah.
I'm a big purple guy. Purple and red were my favorite colors growing up. So whatever they choose, I'm like, oh, this is sick. I love this. I can't wait till they bring back the candy cane jerseys. I love the candy cane jerseys.
Are you talking about the ones that we won the championship in? Like that
yes,
one?
sir. Yeah.
I feel like the team's got to get good again, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that on no 13 and 69 win teams, 69 lost teams, man. We got to have some sanctity and show some respect. Okay, we are going to get to your questions here. Appreciate people for leaving them in the chat here. No producers, my producers have abandoned me. They've decided to go to the U of T TMU game instead. So I'm going to have to try to operate this on my own, but we are going to send you some questions. Okay, here you go. First one from Scott. Scott asks, please ask Sam the updated cross-racial Gradey Dick comp.
Okay, so this is something that Trey and I have been discussing for quite some time. I've been trying to convince him that the most apt comparison is not another white guy. And I finally got him to admit when we did our podcast, or right after the Charlotte game, he said, we might have to go black. And so I posed the question to so many people. And there was like Ray Allen was one. The one that I think, the one that I think about, and Blake asked me about this. He asked me this exact question. He was a concerned listener. And I said, and I mean it, Devin Booker. Devin Booker is my cross-racial comp for Gradey.
Okay. Wow. We have gone to Ray Allen and Devin Booker. I mean, listen what happens when you set in your career high 3 times in 4 games. I feel like with the Devin Booker thing, so Devin's career growth was very interesting because he was trapped on these horrible Suns teams. It was like, you know what? We drafted you 13th, and that was a really good pick. I guess that was where Gradey was drafted too. There you go. But like, it was like, but guess who else we drafted? It's Dragan Bender. It's Alex Len. It's Josh Jackson. Like, they kept having top 5 picks, and they were just bricking on these. They were like, you know what we're doing this year? We're getting you Tyson Chandler, and he's 38. And it's like, okay, man, like, stop torturing Devin Booker. But then he kind of had to play point guard, right, for them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, I think that's where he developed a lot more of his on-ball reps. So yeah, I mean, damn, if he's anywhere near any of these guys, I'd be pretty happy. But what is this specifically with the Devin Booker thing that you see?
I think that they finish at the rim similarly. They're actually both much better movement and difficult shot makers than their reputation as like elite shooters. You go look at Devin Booker's, see if he's been like an elite 3-point shooter or like standstill 3-point shooter. It hasn't happened. He's a guy who was drafted as like, this guy's the prettiest jump shot. Mm-hmm. He's going to be an incredible shooter. And then he became like a multi-purpose scorer, and he scored a lot on empty calorie teams. And then Darko came over and helped design the offense for the Phoenix Suns. They started running a ton of Spain pick and roll. They started running a lot more stuff with Devin at the head of the snake, making a lot more playmaking reads. Then he became a guy who was really good. I think he's still an underrated playmaker now. Yes. Just because I make that comp doesn't mean I expect Gradey to be like Devin Booker, but I do like that as a comp as far as like play style. I think that aesthetically they're actually quite similar. And I think that once Gradey puts on a little bit more weight, he'll get into that mid-post bag that Devin Booker goes to a lot of the time. And they're both great triple threat players, and they're both great attacking closeouts. So that's kind of the reason for the comp.
I think, well, number one, I think we could actually just ask Darko about this sometime. Yeah. It'll probably have to be a practice setting, It's not like a post-game setting. It's like a practice.
After they lose, you say, hey, do you think Gradey is like Devin Booker? That'd be so funny.
Oh, man. We'll see if Darko can carry water for 2 players, not just one. But I do think that, I mean, with Devin, number one, he's a lot stronger than Gradey is right now. So we'll have to see if he can get to that point where he's as strong as Devin is. Because Devin's able to make, take contact, shoot through the contact. Although I got to say, Grady has had a lot of and-ones this year as well. So, he's kind of like stretching around, though. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, like, as Gradey gets stronger, I think there's more of a possibility of that. I also just think that, like, Devin, I think that's where the on-ball creation from like the standstill on-ball rather than like attacking closeout on-ball or like the ball swings to you and you have some momentum on-ball, like that's where I think that there is still obviously a huge gap, and we'll see if he gets there. You know what I mean? Like I think I'm not going to rule anything out with Gradey's development right now because he's shown so much from year 1 to year 2 that like if you told me already in year 2 that he'd be doing this, I would already feel like I've won. So why limit that?
Yeah, you know? Devin's first step is consequentially faster than Gradey's. But yeah, it is like you look at Gradey's updated averages, I guess 6 games in, and 6 games is not the whole season. This isn't an expectation. But if I had told you coming into this year, like, hey, through the first 6 games, Gradey is going to average 21 points per game, and he's going to do it on what 61% true shooting. You'd be like, what the hell? That's incredible.
Right. No, seriously, that's exactly what I would say. I'm like, damn, did I say that Ochai has a chance to start? Like that was always a long shot, but that's certainly not what he's doing. But yeah, I mean, I like he's been phenomenal. I think another question related to this was asked by Matt B, who says Dick is turning out to be a hell of a pick by the front office. He's outperforming most of the players picked ahead of him. It's not just because guys are injured. He's passing the eye test, and this is like way too early to do a redraft of the 2023 NBA draft. But if I do open that page right now, and Samson, I'll just quickly have you say yes or no to some of these names. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, okay? Let's do it.
Let's go. Victor Wembanyama. Okay, obviously. Brandon Miller. I think that's also an obviously yes. Brandon Miller is very talented. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Scoot Henderson.
I think you can make the case for Gradey over Scoot.
I think you can make the case as well. Scoot has had some interesting games, I suppose, to start the season. Like he just had a 22-point game, but like his field goal percentage right now is at 44. He still doesn't really shoot the 3 that well. I don't know. For a smaller guard, like this is kind of just there's a real ceiling if you can't really shoot. And right now he has not been able to shoot. Amen or Asar Thompson. Those were 4 and 5 to Houston and Detroit.
I think I'd still take both those guys. I guess like obviously Asar is dealing with blood clot currently in Detroit, but I think both those guys are like they could end up being unbelievably good, both of them. So probably both of them over Gradey.
Crazy athletic, pretty good feel as well. Both of them cannot shoot the 3. Amen's 3-point percentage right now for his career is 15.6%. That's I got to double check that, man. How is that? Yeah, it's actually it is 15.6. Okay. Same thing with Asar. He's at 18. So they truly are twins. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very different types of players. It depends on what you need, honestly. It really does. Anthony Black at 6 overall.
Gradey.
To Orlando.
Gradey, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, his career has not popped off. Bilal's made a nice year 2 jump, man. I feel like Washington's like low-key not watchable because that's like too far to say, but they're decent. I like when they play him and Keyshawn George and who else, man? I guess
Sar. You know, Sar is fun. Jordan Poole is interesting in his he's actually scored the ball well to start the year. But I'd take Bilal over Gradey, I think.
Me too. Bilal's there's a 2-way potential there that I think is just a higher ceiling. Jarris Walker, someone I think a lot of us Raptor fans liked. We're looking at Indiana like it looks like Pascal's going there. Can we get Jarris Walker back? But Jarris, I mean, you watch the Pacers a lot more closely than I do. Do you like Jarris?
I like Jarris, but I'm taking Gradey.
Yeah. I think Jarris, like, if he doesn't pop off after this year, it's like him and there's like this, like, I guess Mobo is kind of a similar to Jarris as well, though Jarris is much bigger than Mobo, like thicker, probably the same height, but just like wider. But yeah, like that kind of like playmaking, small ball 4-5, like there is just kind of a limit to that. And I'm curious to see where Jarris goes. I did like some of his G League performances last year. Taylor Hendricks, we're going to leave him out of this because he broke his leg. Get well soon. Cason Wallace, 10th overall.
Gradey.
Cason Wallace is good though. He's really good.
Yep.
He plays at a really, really good team. Actually, I would love to see what a Gradey would have done, for example, in an OKC setting where there's so much shooting and there's so much movement as well. But yeah, Jet Howard with Orlando, I think that's obviously Gradey. And then Derek Lively going 12th. Obviously, that was a trade that they made between OKC and Dallas. But I don't know. Lively, I like Lively a lot. But yeah.
I will say I had Gradey top 5 heading into the draft.
Top 5.
Top 5. And so I'll just say this, since
go ahead.
I assume there's a lot of people watching, but a lot of like Mobo Raptors Twitter got introduced to him as a player through Josh Codanera, and Gradey Dick was another guy who he's a professional scout. Josh Codanera was a big proponent of Gradey Dick. So if anybody wants to pay attention to somebody before he gets hired into the NBA, at Josh Scout him on Twitter. He's tremendous. Like, you'll actually learn so much about basketball, but he's a friend of mine who always tells me about these prospects. And so he's a reason why I was such a big fan of Gradey. So, but yeah, Gradey, I mean, it's been great to watch, man. Obviously, I'm enjoying the play.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've only met Josh once, but he was a super nice guy. Give me good vibes. And he was also driving around everywhere to go scout. Like, the grind is crazy, man. It's like a minivan or something. Like, he just drives a minivan and just pulls up the high schools, and he's like, this kid's good, this kid's not good, XYZ. No, I'm kidding. It's way deeper than that. I guess the last thing I would say about this is, are there any players drafted after Gradey that you would take ahead of Gradey right now? So those guys, right after was Jordan Hawkins, 14, Kobe Buffkin, 15, Keontae George, 16, Jalen Hood-Schifino, who did not get his third-year option picked up, which is, a little bit, I guess, a little bit strange. Jaime Hawkins Jr., 18th to Miami. 19th overall was Brandon Pajemski, Cam Whitmore. I think at some point last season, it was like these other guys were showing clearly a lot more than Gradey was, but the way Gradey started this season, I don't know. I don't think there's a clear-cut case.
The one compelling guy, I think, is Cam Whitmore. Okay. I know there was a whole bunch of stuff about like Keontae George, but that always, I never bought that, because it was just people going and looking at like points per game and assists per game. Like, Keontae George is
he got a bag. He got a bag. It's bag related.
Yeah, he's an aesthetic. Like, people are like, oh, it makes sense when I watch him, but it's going like it's gone poorly for Keontae. Yes. And he has the benefit of getting a lot of possessions to try stuff, but it's gone poorly. And so, like, people used to, like, I experienced it the same way you did. Like, people complained to me the same way people complained to you. Is like, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? There was a lot of complaints about why we didn't take Cam, why we didn't take Keontae. And Cam is still very intriguing to me. Keontae, I think Gradey clears, but I mean, hey.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason why I was biased towards the Keontae thing too was just like, I saw.
You were a Keontae guy?
I liked what he does. Yeah, like I liked what he did when he came here, and I saw him at Global Jam, and it was like, like, how often are you going to see college prospects in Canada? But then you saw him here, and like, he was like phenomenal in that one. And I think that, like, as a lead guard and as a smaller lead guard, I liked his toughness, but there's something about him where I'm just like, that might just be a blind spot. Like, I kind of like Jalen Suggs too, not like necessarily as like this like can't miss thing, but I'm just like, there's something about these like stronger, smaller guards in college who aren't necessarily like knockout shooters, and then they just like look way more effective than they are, and then they get to the league. Like, I didn't think Keontae was a can't miss prospect by any means. I think his turnover ratio was like maybe negative somehow as a point guard, but yeah, I mean, the start of their careers, I think other players come in at a point where it's like, some people are really ready for the league in terms of just like their physical advancement, their body. And then once that level like normalizes, because pretty much that happens for everybody. Once you get into the league, what you can really bank on is sort of your physicality and all that stuff improving. Then it's like, okay, what is your skill set? And sort of like, can that sort of like be activated once you catch up to the physical curve? And I feel like Gradey to some extent has caught up a little bit with the physical curve. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. Yeah.
That's why Hawkins was so good as soon as he stepped into the league. Like, he really built out his physicality. He was so comfortable with it.
He's also 23.
Yep. And he stepped into the league. He's like, I'm a man as well. I'll see you on the court, you know?
Yeah, there you go. I mean, damn. I mean, look, they've done a great job with Gradey. Okay, you know what? Let's do one more Gradey question. Okay, we'll get the other questions as well. But this one from Matt. Do you think Gradey's aggression will slow down the opponent's adjustments to his game by midseason? So I think he means, like, do you think his slow down once other teams adjust?
He's like, for example, the Raptors, their baseline used to feature when they'd run the Spain pick and roll, Gradey would be in the corner. But now, even with IQ, they put Gradey as the back screener in Spain. So when they run Spain leak and he pops out, that he draws closeouts. So Gradey will, if he's being seen as a shooter now and getting long closeouts, aggressive closeouts as a shooter now, I suspect he will get them for the rest of his career. So that aspect of his game, and he like if everybody shifts in front of like if there's a line of scrimmage in front of the rim, I mean he shoots the mid range very well out of the pull, out of motion. Like he can just go to that. He's pretty comfortable making reads to both sides of the floor. I think the most effective thing would be top blocking, which is when the player doesn't allow you to come over the top of a screen on a stagger or a pin down or something like that. And it forces you to reroute downhill as a back cutter. But Gradey is very comfortable as a cutter as well. And also that just puts onus on whoever's catching and whoever's like the big who's setting the screen or wing who's setting the screen to make a play in space. So I think like if teams are top blocking Gradey, the fix isn't necessarily that Gradey is like, gets less aggressive. The fix is that teams will be putting two guys on Gradey and just put Scotty as the screener and let him play in space with man advantages that you didn't even have to run a pick and roll for. You just had to try and run Gradey off a screen. Like, I think his shots will fluctuate, of course, but the appeal of Gradey is that you'll see he affects the court wholesale with his gravity and motion. And that's what Darko talked about when he was talking to us the other day, when he was like, Gradey will get his shots.
Yep.
Sometimes he'll play a half where they don't come. Sometimes he'll play a half where it's boom, 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 boom. But you can always feel his presence offensively on the one side. That's why the Raptors are like 30 points better with him on the floor offensively to start this season. But it's not been great defensively. And again, on-offs it's cannon fodder. But he just helps out a lot. So your shots could come and go, but he'll take them when they come, I think.
He will definitely take them as they come. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a good point made by Darko as well, in terms of just like, once you have people reacting to you, once people see you as a threat, like, number one, he's actually shown a really good ability to attack those closeouts. But number two is just like that just creates more opportunities for your teammates. And yeah, I mean, honestly, the thing I'm loving about Gradey too, there's been at least twice now where he's on the wing and it's sort of like the typical sequence would be swing into the corner and he make one more pass. And I think both times Ochai was open in the corner, probably more open than Gradey. And Grady's just like, nah, man, I'm Gradey. I'm just gonna shoot this. And I think maybe on paper you would say, okay, you should make the next pass, but I think confidence-wise, it really speaks to sort of how he's attacking. He seeks out these sort of opportunities. I think the guy who's guarded him the best this season has been Christian Brown, and that was the Nuggets game. And I think that like Christian did a really good job of being physical and really denying Gradey of getting to a lot of spots, even keeping him from getting to a screen, for example, just by blocking his path. Some of that is their familiarity with each other as like Kansas guys. Maybe there's a little bit more on the line too, in terms of just like, I'm not going to let this guy, take me on or whatever. I don't even know what specifically, but it's, like how you're more competitive with your friends than you are against random strangers. So I guess that's probably the next thing, is just handling some more of that physicality. But like, again, like I think that Gradey will get stronger as well. He'll sort of play through that. And when he gets stronger too, it's just like, it's easier for him to make N1s. It's easier for him to like set effective screens, to not sort of get denied to certain spots. I'm not saying he's going to turn into like the Hulk and just overrun people, but like, I do think that like some of that is temporary right now.
I'll also add that if you had proposed this like offensive context or environment to people before the season, they probably would have assumed that Gradey's shot volume would be lower. Like we see, like if teams are playing good defense and the Raptors are short on creation, a guy like Ochai is not going to get shots because nobody's attracting the defense and giving him opportunities. People would have expected Gradey to be like waiting for shot opportunities. And yet he goes and hunts them and hunts about 25 of them. So it's already going a lot differently than I think people might have expected. And that this is like, his shots will change, of course, depending on how the team looks. But this is a tremendous indicator because he's taking really difficult shots and he's 61% true shooting.
There you go. Okay, we're going to take one last one, and then we're going to handle the stars and wrap it up because we are over an hour. And the Raptors did lose, by the way. It's a very promising post game. We're very enthusiastic, but they did lose. Last one here from Flying Hippos 101, who sent in $2, so I appreciate the $2. Can we do a dim sum comp from tonight's starting lineup, or from tonight's lineup? I guess no starting. Samson, we've been playing in your ballpark with this long Gradey discussion. So
Yeah.
you are now welcome to join my neck of the woods here.
Yes, welcome. Let's go.
Okay, dim sum comps for tonight's lineup for the Raptors. I'm gonna go with the starting five because I feel like the bench. I mean, there's just too many strange options. Like the bench is like when they roll over like that cart with just tripe on it. It's just like just tripe, and it's like tripe in like a broth / soup, and you're like, I'm hungry, but I'm curious, but I'm not that hungry and curious to like order that. But let's say you're starting five. Jakob is just like a very solid dim sum option, I would say. Like he's not gonna knock your socks off, but at the same time, you're probably gonna order it every single time.
It's like a barbecue pork bun. Something like that.
A little barbecue pork bun, a little filling, fluffy exterior, porky on the inside. I was gonna say like Gylon, just like good, healthy for you. Again, you're never gonna come back from dim sum. People are like, "Oh, how was it?" You're gonna be like, "Oh, the Gylon was amazing."
Yeah.
You never go to a Raptor game. You're like, "Damn, I'm a Jakob Poeltl fan now. I've come back with a 19 jersey."
That's what we were talking about earlier. It's like, yeah, he's been good.
Yeah,
he's not.
He's good. He's good. Like he's not the star of the dish, but he can be beside the star of the dish. Davion Mitchell, I think defensively he shows some moments, which is nice. Played 31 minutes. He was better than Jamal today. I think there was not as much like, hey, Jamal should play ahead of Davion. I think Davion was much better than him today. 10 points for Davion, 5 assists. I don't know, like, is there a dim sum item that's popping out for you? For me, it's just like, he's like one of those whatever dumplings, like they're fine. Like you're not going to regret it, but it's not going to knock your socks off either.
I really like dumplings. So maybe.
Okay. No, but like a specific filling, you know what I mean? Like he's like just a random pork and cabbage dumpling. Like,
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's
I.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You're getting it because like the ladies are pushing the carts and the things that you've seen that you want hasn't come around for a while, and you're like, you know what, screw it. I'm just hungry. Let me just get that pork and cabbage dumpling right there. And that's Davion. RJ, star of the dish, very noticeable. I would say strong umami pop. He would probably be like a sumai today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Fire.
Okay. Ochai, not particularly, not very memorable. It's like a tofu skin that you order for the vegetarian person on the table for you. You're like, hey, it's that tofu skin with a little bit of like minced mushroom in there. Kind of tastes all right, but if you're not vegetarian, you're not really ordering that much.
Great presentation, looks good.
Sure, there you go. Exactly. And then Grady's the one that you go home and you're raving about. You're like, wow, Gradey, you know what? He's not orthodox, but he still ends up being very memorable. The comp for me is chicken feet. That's my favorite dim sum item. So this is actually the highest compliment I can pay him. But Samson, I just got to ask, have you ordered chicken feet at dim sum before?
I had chicken feet with my friend RC, but I'm not a connoisseur of chicken feet. I was wondering though, I was like, I wonder if we get chicken feet on this. So I'm overjoyed to see that. Chicken feet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think again, chicken feet is like, if I take my friends to dim sum, like I want to know if they're real. So I'll just order it because I'll know, like I'll just crush these like 5 chicken feet, no problem. All right, but if you guys want to get in on it and you enjoy it, like. And you want to put that gelatinous thing in your mouth and spit out 15 bones and a claw, like just, you know what? We're closer as friends after that experience. So, yeah,
brings you together.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up here. 3 stars in this game. Samson, give me your first and second star. I'll take the third.
Wow. Okay. I really do have trouble picking stars, but I mean, first and second is easy. In this game anyway. I know we've struggled in the past, but I know we've talked way more about Gradey, but RJ is the first star. 33 and 12, 14 of 22 from the floor, 3 of 5 from downtown. As impressive as Gradey was as a shot maker, RJ was an offense unto himself. We talked about his resilience earlier, the extra patience he had as a playmaker, just going up at the rim repeatedly and without being rewarded with trips to the line. I thought he was like sublime. And we talked about Gradey to death on this podcast. He's second star.
Fair enough. Gradey, 31 points. That's another career high. Knocked down 5 threes. Honestly, if he knocked down that corner three in the in the last minute there and made it a 1-possession game with lots of time on the clock, I don't think the Raptors would have won. I don't think anything would have changed, but it would have been very hype if he did that, because we might have not seen Bronny. So that's whatever. Your third star from tonight's performance, to be honest, the only other Raptor who played really well was Jakob. So
yeah,
it's a pretty easy third star. Jakob, 19 and 12 with 6 assists, 3 blocks. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess we can see more out of him defensively, but like I mentioned a couple of times, I've enjoyed seeing Jakob being like, I guess they throw him the ball in the post and then they'll try to cut. And if there's a pass to be made, he'll make that pass. Like, he's obviously a very unselfish player. But this season in particular, they're like, hey man, if that cut doesn't materialize and you've seen Ochai cut through and Gradey cut through and then Gradey circle back and he's still not open, just go ahead and take 1 or 2, dribbles, up fake, head fake, step through, something, a little reverse layup. I've been enjoying the very occasional burst of Jakob Poeltl, the post player, because I never remembered seeing that in his first or second shifts as a Raptor. So
he does not like having his back to the basket. Like, he'll do a hip swivel quickly to change directions maybe, but as far as just like having his back to the basket and trying to go to work, I don't think I've ever seen that in my life.
Yeah, that's true. He's an odd player, man. He's very Gylon like. Your Gerald Henderson Award winner for who randomly torched the Raptors. I mean, I wouldn't say he torched the Raptors. I mean, like, D'Angelo Russell really torched them down the stretch. So I think you can go with D'Lo. I feel like Reeves drawing 14 free throws is just kind of crazy. But he does have that knack for it. I'd probably go with D'Angelo. It's not the first time he torched the Raps too, but it was just like, okay, LeBron and AD, they were dominating all game. And then it's like, okay, Raptors fought, and they're like right there. And all of a sudden, D'Lo's like, guess what? I'm just going to like splash 3 jumpers with perfect arc, and they're just going to splash in. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, yeah, we don't have anything else to answer that. So he had 19 points, but a lot of impactful fourth quarter buckets. Lastly, we got to hand out the most important guy, and I gotta let you know that the most important guy award is brought to you by Greta. Make sure you check out Greta on 590 King Street West. They're the #1 hangout spot for pregame, during the game, post game. We're actually having a season kickoff party at Greta on Tuesday, November 12th at 7 p.m. The Raptors are in Milwaukee that night, and we'll be watching the game there. So go to nationgear.ca to RSVP for your free tickets now. We are approaching capacity. I'm not kidding. This is not one of those like, hey, we're approaching capacity, but low-key we have like 100 more. Like, this is not one of those, I promise. I think we have like 20 more spots. But if you want to come through, live watch party at Greta, November 12th. It's a great place. It's also just a nice place to go to watch the game, before the game, after game. Also, if the game is a blowout, you can just like pivot to something else and just play the arcade games, which is also quite fun. So your most important guy for this game, I'm going to give that to Masai for doing an in-game interview. I never remember Masai doing like joining the broadcast Drake style. Like, first off, Drake used to always show up for the LeBron games. What happened to that? He's just like, haven't seen this man around. Last time Drake was in Scotiabank Arena, he was shooting first-person shooters. So like, was he even for Raptors? It was just like, I'm here for a music video. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to Masai though. Masai, doing an interview mid-game. Nobody asked him like, hey, why is your team down 40-20? Are you okay with this? He's like, look, we're rebuilding, And then Gradey started hitting threes that they were asking about Gradey. So I thought Masai actually did well on the live broadcast. I think it's I like Masai in general in press conferences, and this is not a press conference, but the more that you get Masai off the cuff, the better, because Masai actually is a good quote, and he actually will tell you some things. Like, he's not as like buttoned down as you would expect from most GMs. You know what I mean? Like, you put the average GM on there, it wouldn't sound good. You put who's like Rob Pelinka in the middle of the game, he'd be like, man, Dalton Connect falling to us at 17th was like manna from heaven. Which is what he famously said about KCP, which is incredible.
That's like, Masai is very charismatic.
Super
and
charismatic.
He is candid. Like, is it funny that he openly lamented the quality of the 2024 draft before he had to try and trade out of it? Like, that's so funny. And then even though he traded out of it to get Ochai and Kelly, they ended up getting like 5 guys from that draft. It's just like he'll throw you a curveball. And also like, yeah, I mean, as much as people I think have disagreed with some of the process he and Bobby have taken with team building, I mean, you look at the press conferences he gives, like he gives his life to the press conference. Like he'll put like he cried tears when he traded Pascal. Not a lot of like, does that mean anything really? Jesus. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, maybe not all presidents of basketball, but he has a lovely titles. I don't know all of them, but whatever his role is,
et cetera. Yeah.
Big deal. Not everybody is as captivating as he is, even though I don't buy all of it, but it's captivating.
Yeah, no, it's very. I wouldn't even say it's he's like a good politician rather than a bad politician. Like right now, like there's obviously a lot of like, like the election is happening in the States like next week, right? So there's like lots of this. And by the way, why is there so much like these guys are going on podcasts? I'm like, since when are our presidents going on podcasts being like, vote for me?
Like, we're in societal decline, man.
Dog,
like,
what's going on?
We know.
Man? You don't just stick to CNN and C-SPAN, buddy. I don't want to hear you talking on any podcast, period. But they're like, oh, guess what? Tim Walz is gonna stream. I'm like, I don't want to see you stream. There's so many pressing issues right now. Like, please make one campaign, election promise, please. Like any of you, like. But
what is Masai's election like campaign promise? If you could pick one, what do you think it is?
Well, I mean, he's not. I don't think he's on. Actually, I don't think Masai is actually on either side of the political spectrum. I've never gotten that sense that he's like left leaning or right leaning. Quite frankly, I feel like he's just almost intrigued by the process of it as well, in general.
Well, he's like boys with Obama, so that probably puts you ostensibly. Well, I guess like I don't know, relative to the world, the world spectrum of politics is different than America's, I guess. But yeah,
sure,
I don't know,
because on the world spectrum of politics, Obama is very central, like just central,
Yes,
and that's how was the vibe I get from Masai as well. But yeah, what was your question? What's Masai's? What would his
like in the basketball sense? Like, what is Masai's like campaign promise to the Raptors or Raptors fans? Like, is it like we will win again in Toronto?
We will win in Toronto. What's the other one that he said?
Believe in the city.
Yeah, believe in the city. Like these are very classic. Like people buy them and he sells them and he says them and I think he believes it enough. That it's like he makes you believe it.
A little bit populist as well. I get like populist.
You know what I mean? Like it is like he would make a very effective politician. Is all I would say. Yeah. But then of course, if you would press him on like specific issues, he's not going to give you a clear answer. But not in the way that like Bobby is like needlessly nebulous. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm just going to be more cold as I answer this question about cap flexibility. But Masai just has this thing where it's like you always feels like he's on your side, regardless of what he's actually telling you, which is like a great quality for a politician. So
yeah.
All right. Well, we always go in some weird places, and today we end up in one of those weird places. But Samson, I appreciate you. Are you going to be there tomorrow for Vince Carter's big day?
Yeah, I can't wait. I guess I'll plug something quick. I have another mailbag. I have another mailbag tomorrow. You've had Keeks on your podcast. You know how great she is a guest. It will be myself and Keeks mailbagging. So if anybody has questions, make sure you ask, and we'll be live at I think noon. But I will be at the game. I can't wait.
Are you doing this every Saturday?
Yeah.
Is that the plan? Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Saturdays, if you're not watching EPL, if you're not watching Brighton versus Brentford, you know what I mean? Like, just go on YouTube, go to Raptors Republic, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell.
Salah is still doing it.
What do you mean? Who's still doing it?
Like Mo Salah, still doing it, man. He's still so good. People kind of talked like maybe it would start.
Get those extensions done, buddy. Like, what are we doing? Let's extend Van Dijk, Trent, and Mo, because there are 3 best players. I mean, Cody Gakpo had an incredible performance this week as well. 2 incredible goals, but like, yeah, I mean,
awesome at the Euros.
Locking up your top 3 players, always a good idea.
Yeah.
So there you go. We'll be there at the Vince thing. I'll be doing the React Pod after that one as well. Certainly going to be focusing a lot on sort of the post-game scene with Vince. And yeah, just in general, I think the Raptors are obviously losing right now, but the young guys are showing some promise. If that's enough to entertain you, I hope it is, because that's what you're getting this season. So thanks everyone for listening. This has been the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway. See you tomorrow.